The circle of life is so powerful because here I am holding this helpless newborn baby that is smaller than the size of both of my hands, feeling that same feeling that when I was sitting next to my grandfather, and that helpless feeling, but so fragile and so full of life at the same time. It's so balanced in a way. The end of life is so much like the beginning of life. What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of Inside Influence, or the Inside Influence podcast. It's going to take me a while to get used to saying that as I kind of work into rebranding this and start bringing on guests. I don't know how long I'm going to say that, how many weeks I'm going to say that before I have the actual first guest, but it is coming. I am actively talking with people, and it's coming. I've got some pretty exciting people that are going to be coming on the podcast. Some people maybe you've heard of, some people maybe you have not heard of. And it'll be fun to get a second voice in here. But today I kind of want to get a little deep with you, give you a little update, a little life update, and talk about the circle of life. And in terms of the circle, the update that I want to give you on my life is, and if you've been listening for a while, I guess it's been about a month or so, maybe 2 months, I did a couple podcasts on my takeaways from my grandfather. And my grandfather was 84 years old, diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and basically given a timeline to live. And I did a podcast when that initially happened, because I went to visit him as soon as it happened. We were all kind of freaking out, needless to say, and just in a way of like, is it going to happen now, or is it, so we were cherishing the time and the experience that I talked on, and you can go back and watch those podcasts, but the experience that I was having in those moments of just pure presence, talking to somebody that has a deadline on their life, a timeline on their life, and hearing the realizations and the I wish I would haves, or the shoulda, the shoulda, woulda, coulda. And now here he is in this state that he is faced with death, and obviously it's inevitable for all of us, but to know that it was coming and basically to make the decision, right? He went through a couple rounds of chemo, but just decided that he was suffering too much and just wanted to just let it happen, right? And throughout this process, when it initially happened, which was back in November, he said that I just want to live to see another spring. And that's kind of the biggest takeaway that I had from that initial visit, along with a couple other quotes that I put in that podcast. But he's such an outdoorsy guy, and he loves he wanted to see the flowers bloom and the turning of the season, in the sense that he was just so infatuated with life and with any form of life, that's trees, that's animals, that's insects. The entirety of the rest of his life, he had 3 birds in his living room just chirping, singing away in front of the daylight, and it was a really beautiful thing. But I tell you this to update you that he did pass away this past, I guess last Thursday, and it was super powerful. I mean, I'm getting the chills right now thinking about it, but he passed away on March 23rd, or March 22nd, literally the day after spring turned. And or maybe it was 1 or 2 days, but it was almost like he was holding out for spring, and he had that end goal in mind of, I want to live to see another spring. And now he didn't get to see, obviously, all the trees blooming and craziness because he lived in Michigan, right? It's snowy and cold, but the idea that, hey, Granddad, it's spring now, and like if your time comes, it's, you did it. And there's something super powerful in that to me. And I don't tell you this to make you feel sorry for me. Death is a part of life. But rather to try to relate to different things. And I'm going to bring up an example of kind of the whole idea of the circle of life, in what he would have reflected on that experience that I had. But I guess just my takeaways from the entire process of it all. I worked really hard with him. He actually wrote a book. It's called The Rainbow Walkers. It's on Amazon. It's on Ingram Spark, which is just a platform for international buyers. But he grew up in England. He grew up in the bombings during the war. And he wrote a book on basically his experiences in childhood and how to come together as a family and country, and goes into a lot of detail, right, on just kind of that experience in England. And through the last couple months of his life, he was really, really stressing about getting that book out. So I kind of took it under my wing to communicate everything with the book. I said, Granddad, don't worry about a single thing. I will loop you in when you need to be looped in, and I'll handle everything with the publishing, blah, blah, blah. So I became really close to the publisher, and we got the book published literally 2 weeks before he passed away. It was pretty special just to know how much he had invested emotionally, time, everything into this book, and to see it all come together, see him hold a physical copy in his hand. It was super special and just so much work. I put together a website for him as well. It's called therainbowwalkers.com. And this is not obviously a marketing thing. If you are interested and want to buy the book, I think it's like $25. I don't know, an ebook for $5. But I know that would make him happy. But it's more to tell you, just like, this is, in his experience, I was experiencing it with him, with knowing the definitive end was there. And the presence that you get from that, it was such a blessing to know that your time was limited. Instead of it happening abruptly, which obviously it happens to all of us, knowing that it was there and real and happening before our eyes, but him also knowing and being at peace with it, there was something so special in it. And I could go on and on. I've talked about the takeaways throughout the process in those other podcasts, but I was in Nashville after he passed away. This past week I was in Nashville, and one of my friends from high school is married and had just had a newborn baby. The baby was 2 weeks old, and I went to visit them, and I was holding the baby, and I could not stop thinking about my grandfather, and who had just passed away, literally, I think 5 days before I was holding the baby. And it came to me just like the circle of life is so powerful, because here I am holding this helpless newborn baby that is smaller than the size of both of my hands, and nurturing this baby as he sleeps, and feeling that same feeling that when I was sitting next to my grandfather, and that helpless feeling, but so fragile and so full of life at the same time. It's so balanced in a way. The end of life is so much like the beginning of life. And to see and hold that baby, just, babies are beautiful, number one. But number two, I just couldn't help but to think of the way that he would be smiling thinking about holding a baby, right? Just because it is a new life, and his infatuation with just new life of anything, right? And it was super powerful to me, and it just kind of came to me when I was holding the baby, and I thought to put it on a podcast and just kind of expand on it a little. And as I'm talking, I guess there's not much else to expand on other than the idea that the circle of life is so, I mean, we start out as babies helpless, and then we end our lives, if we get so lucky to be that old, to be helpless again, essentially, right? And that is just the fact of life, and something that we will all come to. And I think for me, the lesson in it too is just like every day. I heard something yesterday. Every day is your day of life, or something along the lines, basically saying that this day is the only day of your life. It might be the only one you get, so you might as well live it. And I don't know, it's just because that time when we're potentially, dying, it'll come for all of us. And it's important to remember to be present and to remember to hug your loved ones. There's so many different ways we could go about it, but I just wanted to put that out there. It's kind of a deep podcast, but also just a reminder to be present and appreciate the little things. Appreciate the trees that are blooming in spring as we are now in spring. Appreciate the rain. Appreciate all the natural things that the world gives us, right? And to just notice that these things are here in our life to be an experience, and that there is energy in those things. And if we can but notice that those things are there as experiences. And when I say that, I mean, as if this tree, if I'm walking in nature and I'm looking at a tree, I'm noticing, generally we'll just walk and just kind of walk past trees, but hey, that tree is there to experience life. And it might sound a little hoorah, whatever you want to call it, but it's true. Like, it's life, and it's experiencing its own life, and we are experiencing ours. So why not experience that moment, right? And it's really just another way to say to be present. But I'm going to wrap this thing up. I hope there was something I said in there that maybe resonated with you, maybe that you can share with somebody that might have an impact on, there's so many people that I've listened to on YouTube or Spotify, whatever platform in a podcast format, that have inspired me. And maybe it was not the greatest long form podcast, but I could take one thing away, and that's my goal in life, right? To hopefully say something to inspire somebody, because if somebody could do it for me, I hope I could do it for you. So we'll wrap this thing up with a random question generator. Generate a random question. Do you have a special project you're currently working on? Wow. Kind of, yes. Kind of a couple, yes. One of which is I really am working hard to put together a formula for a greens product and some kind of supplement that is an all-encompassing natural energy type deal, overall well-being. That, because people ask me all the time, like, what supplement should I take? And obviously I have my supplement sponsor and I use a lot of their stuff, but I also want one thing that I could just say to anybody, to say, hey, you need this, it has everything you need in it, don't take anything else, right? Or supplement with other things that you need to take. But anyways, that's one thing. The other thing is I would love to get a boxer brand / underwear brand launched within the next year, one of which would be a special edition type with the "Don't Forget to Smile" slogan / saying that I've always said since I literally started this thing. And not, when I say this thing, I don't mean just YouTube and podcasts, but Instagram. I mean, literally everything. I've been saying it at the end of takeaways on stories for the past 2.5 years. So those are just a couple little things. There's other ideas out there that are floating, and we'll see what action takes place. But again, I hope you took something away. I appreciate you watching. If you don't mind, like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you're the first one to see these videos. I will see you next time on a Sunday for a Sunday vlog. As you know, my videos come out for Workout Wednesdays, Thursday Thoughts, and Sunday Vlogs. I'll see you next time. Have an awesome freaking day, and don't forget to smile.